found that going to see a film and studying it at the moment, as you're watching it for the first time, doesn't work. You have to let the film work on you or not. Then if you're hit by certain things, if you go there and you go back and you try to find, very often if you imagine a sequence or a scene or two that's edited a certain way, you find that the camera wasn't that close, but it appeared that close in your memory. That's interesting. Why? Well, it may have been use of sound effect, may have been use of a cut, you see, or a camera move that was imperceptible at first. So there was almost like a memorization of, I guess it was almost like a photographic memory of images, editing, sequences in the film, scenes, shots. And so I would draw upon that. Don't forget, there was really no way of seeing these things unless it was shown on television again, arbitrarily, or it was playing in a theater somewhere and you had to go to find that theater, and so you had to do it from memory. Whether it was the marshal's badge on the dirt ground against the boot of Gary Cooper at the end of High Noon, or, part of the chariot race in Ben-Hur. You had to go and see the film again. You can make little drawings, I used to try to draw my own versions of these things from memory, And so I remember seeing The Small Back Room, a Powell Pressburger film, on television in an afternoon one day, I think in the early to mid-50s. And I remembered the mood of this film. It's a very strange film. I recall very, very clearly the opening title sequence. Particularly, there's a shot of a traffic light changing from red to green. Of course, it's a black and white film, but you do get the impression. It's the angle of the traffic light, and it's the rain that's in the frame around it. There's something about that shot that made it very powerful and memorable. I only saw it once. And also, through the windshield as that person is driving, as Michael Goff, I think, is driving in the beginning, and through the windshield, it's London during the war, everything is dark, and the windshield wipers are wiping away this heavy rain, and you're looking through. And those two images became really key images for Taxi Driver. There's another shot in there, too, in Taxi Driver, that he goes to buy guns. This is a specific reference, for example. But he goes to buy guns from Andy in the hotel room, and he picks up one of the guns. He goes to the window, and the gun is pointed at 2 or 3 women outside, I think with an umbrella. But that's placed on a dolly or a track, and it tracks over. And there was always something I loved in this King Vidor's film, Northwest Passage. There's an attack by the Native Americans against the fort. And at one point, he has somebody with a rifle, cameras shooting over that person with the rifle, and you see the native running in the background. And the man is put on a track, a dolly. The actor, and the camera just tracks with him, fires the gun, tracking along in the same direction as the native was running. So we tried the similar thing. That was directly, and I started putting then Travis on a dolly at times, although we did it in Mean Streets too, but not particularly not as specific as with the gun from Northwest Passage. When we started making films, we were very conscious of cinema around us, particularly the older Hollywood cinema too. So this was a time when you could actually make reference to films that people considered just, quote, entertainment, unquote. And there were people around the world, in France and England, and Italy, other places, Japan, who knew what you were talking about. And so we started making references, and this was our generation doing that. Again, the French filmmaker, Jean-Luc Godard, making a reference directly to Humphrey Bogart in À bout de souffle, Breathless, where Belmondo looks at an image of Bogart, I think, from The Harder They Fall, his last film, and he does the gesture that Bogart always was known for with his thumb and says bogey, I think. There was references to Hawks films, references to Hitchcock constantly in those films. my first kind of a feature is Who's That Knocking on My Door, which is kind of I look at it as kind of a juvenilia, as kind of like we were trying things, took about 3 or 4 years to make over time, trying to find how to tell a story without telling a straight narrative. We used references to Westerns in the film as a starting point for conversations. They were like testing each other. And so a reference particularly to The Searchers, which everyone knows now to a certain extent. But at that time, The Searchers was not considered a very good film. It was like a franchise picture. For example, it was always usually a John Ford film. Hitchcock had a film a year, so Vertigo was ignored. It was just another Hitchcock film. It was a little murky, they felt, the audience and I should say the critics more. But at the age of 13 and 14, The Searchers was something that was really important to us when we saw it, that reflected the world we were in, the America that we knew or that we were experiencing at that time, and the portents of the character of Ethan Edwards. And so, and the beauty of the film, the poetry, the imagery, and the language. We use that as a basis to start conversations in the movie and that sort of thing. And particularly, you're dealing with a film that took place in the Lower East Side. And people who certainly wouldn't even have ever seen a horse except for one of the two policemen on horses on Prince Street, maybe.